Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal John Cooper, whose story will be told shortly by Lieutenant Commander Darren Cooper from the Royal Australian Navy, who is a member of Lance Corporal Cooper's family. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal John Arthur Cooper. John Cooper was born in Melbourne suburb of Carlton on the 25th of December 1886 to John and Elizabeth Cooper. He moved from Victoria to Perth before 1906 and began working in the railway sheds of the Western Australian Government Railways. In May 1906, John married Ada Sophia Hodgkinson. The couple had 4 children: John William Victor, Ida Alice Pearl, Jessica Isabel, and Ernest Arthur. John enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 23rd of May 1915 at Kalgoorlie. He gave both his own and his wife Ada's surname as Matthias rather than Cooper. He never gave any reason for this and changed his name to surname back to Cooper in June. He was assigned to the 11th Australian Infantry Battalion and embarked for Egypt on the 25th of June from Fremantle aboard the troop ship Corporal. After a brief stop in Alexandria, he arrived at Anzac Cove on the 4th of August and joined the 11th Battalion in the trenches. The next day, Turkish troops attempted to recapture Lean's Trench. Although the battalion sustained heavy casualties, Cooper survived unscathed. On the 27th of September, Cooper was admitted to hospital suffering from influenza. He returned to duty on the 17th of October and travelled to Lemnos to rejoin his unit at Sarpi Camp. The 11th Battalion faced miserable weather going into their first northern winter. On the 28th of November, the entire 3rd Brigade was quarantined following an outbreak of diphtheria in the 11th Battalion, though John was unaffected by the illness. As part of the reorganisation of the Australian forces after the Gallipoli campaign, he transferred to the newly formed 51st Battalion, which remained in Egypt for the first half of 1916. During this time, John fell foul of the military authorities twice. First, for going absent without leave for over 24 hours in March, and again for being absent after a church parade in May. The 51st Battalion left Egypt for Marseille in June 1916, soon moving into the trenches on the Western Front. He saw action at Mouquet Farm in August and early September. The 51st Battalion spent the rest of the year alternating between frontline duty, training, and labouring behind the line in France. After the German retreat to the Hindenburg Line, the 51st Battalion moved to the Ypres sector in Belgium. The battalion fought in the Battle of Messines in June and the Battle of Polygon Wood in September, where his actions brought him a Distinguished Conduct Medal. During the attack, all the non-commissioned officers leading John's platoon were either killed or wounded. His citation noted, "He took command of his platoon and led them successfully to the objective. He remained in charge during the consolidation, inspiring his men by his fearless conduct amid heavy shell fire and machine gun fire. His initiative and example were of conspicuous merit." John was promoted to Lance Corporal in October 1917. Over Christmas, he spent 2 weeks on leave in England. As part of the German Spring Offensive, German forces captured Villers-Bretonneux from an exhausted British defenders on the 24th of April 1918. In response, the Australian 13th and 15th Brigades, including the 51st Battalion, were brought forward to launch coordinated night attacks to recapture the town. The Australian assault began at 10 p.m. on the 24th of April. During the attack, Lance Corporal John Cooper was killed by a machine gun bullet in the woods outside Villers-Bretonneux. He was 31 years old. John was buried where he fell, only 500 yards south of the village, alongside several others. His remains were later exhumed and reinterred at Adelaide Military Cemetery, Villers-Bretonneux. On the 31st of May 1918, in the Killed in Action reports of Perth's Western Mail newspaper, his family inserted a small commemorative message. "Killed in action somewhere in France, April 25th, 1918. Lance Corporal Jack Cooper, DCM, dearly beloved husband of Ada Cooper and loving daddy of Jackie, Pearlie, Jessie and Arthur." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal John Arthur Cooper, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.